I'm really excited that this agenda item, if we can call it, has been set on the workshop, because it's sometimes the case that, let's say, wider academic audiences, as you put it, aren't addressed, and also non-academic audiences. So it's really exciting, to see this included. The first speaker is Peter de Manuelian, and he's the Barbara Bell Professor of Egyptology at Harvard. He has quite a long bio, so Peter, I'm going to truncate it a little bit, but he is situated in both the Near Eastern Languages and Civilizations and the Anthropology departments at Harvard, and he's director of the Harvard Museum of the Ancient Near East. And he was previously on the curatorial staff of the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, and his Giza Project at Harvard, and there's a link that you might find in the program, aims to collect and present online all past, present, and future archaeological activity at the Giza pyramids. His research and teaching interests include visualization and digital humanities approaches to the ancient world. And he's got a number of digital publications and other publications, including Digital Giza, Visualizing the Pyramids, 30-Second Ancient Egypt. And he's also written a number of, which I find quite interesting as well. So I'm delighted to welcome you, Peter, and it's your turn to take the floor.
Thanks so much, Sarah. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Zizi, for organizing this amazing conference. I don't know so many of these languages, so I'm learning a lot all the time. It's just fantastic. So the Giza Project now at Harvard University is based on the excavations of about 40 years work by one particular project, and that's where we started. So maybe I can even back up a slide if that was not visible. So I'm showing you the pyramids west of modern Cairo, 2,500 BCE or so, 3 royal pyramid complexes, and then all those buildings you see in the front, those are so-called private tombs or non-royal tombs belonging to the Egyptian elites of the Pyramid Age or the Old Kingdom. And the excavation shot in black and white shows you an idea of how much earth was moved in the first half of the 20th century. How's the audio? Is it working now? Can you hear me pretty
It's good.
distinctly?
It's good.
Good.
It's great.
Good. All right. So these expeditions, and in particular the Harvard University Boston Museum of Fine Arts expedition, left behind a massive backlog of material. The director, George Reisner, was one of the first founding fathers of responsible archaeological method. And so you can see thousands of drawings, unpublished manuscript pages, 21,000 glass plate negatives in 3 different sizes, and massive numbers of boxes of correspondence and other types of items. So we started in 2000 when I was at the Museum of Fine Arts with Mellon Foundation money from New York. And our first website launched in 2005. That's the one on the left, still alive, but in its death throes. I wouldn't refer you to that one. Since about 2010, we moved over to Harvard University, and we have a more up-to-date version here. And the point of this talk is really about the scholarship and the public outreach and trying to blend them. So the Mellon Foundation cared about scholarship. They didn't care about what is a pharaoh, what is a pyramid, or reaching K through 12 or other groups. So we really focused on intelligent linking of tombs and photos and diary pages and maps and drawings and plans together so that people could do their research online. Now, as we move beyond the Mellon Foundation to NEH grants and other types of things, the outreach becomes much wider. And you can see on the lower right, on the right-hand one, there's Giza at School, Make It Yours, ways to save and share collections and things like that. And of course, the technical jargon has to be pared down as much as possible. So that's our challenge, to try to be all things to all people. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This is our paradigm. So in the middle of this universe, you can see the individual tomb, or mastaba in Arabic, for the word for bench, because it looks like a bench. These are the non-royal tombs of the elites. They have decorated wall surfaces, they have burial shafts, they have sarcophagi, statues, grave goods, all kinds of things. And the basic principle is just to go through all of the archives and link anything mentioning or showing this tomb, a diary page that mentions it, a statue found in it, a drawing made about it, photography, old and new, and more recently, 3D modeling. So if you do nothing on our website, just hit the search button, you'll pull up our current totals. It's about 160,000 types of items, of which about 83,000 are photographs and 31,000 objects, and published and unpublished documents and maps and drawings and things. You can see the numbers there, and always growing. The other thing we did was to realize that although the Harvard MFA expedition worked much of the site, maybe 2/3 of the site, there were Italian, Egyptian, German, Austrian excavations too. So it made no sense to focus just on the American tombs. And so since that time, we've incorporated all of the other expeditions that have shared their material. So here's a basic results page for a single tomb, and I'll just scroll down really quickly. You can see excavation pages, maps and plans, drawings, published documents. I hope this is scrolling for you and not too choppy, and you can see the different categories. These can be collapsed or expanded. Bibliography as well, free journal articles, PDFs. It's all Mirador IIIF compliant served up with the imagery. So all of the zooming and annotation functions are there, moving into gallery views, as you see here, and zooming in or downloading. This is all possible at different resolutions. How is that working, Sarah? Is it scrolling or choppy? Can you
Yeah,
see
no,
what
it's
you need
fine.
to see?
It's fine. It's good.
Working okay? Great. Okay. So just a quick demo of the scholarly side of searching for a single tomb, excuse me, or a single object. And then the more popular side, in recent years, we've tried to move into the 3D modeling aspect. So the button in the lower left, Explore Giza 3D, brings you to a 3D model of the site made with drone photography. And from here, we're trying to get every single tomb to be a rollover button that you can fly over and choose. And here are just a few samples here where we've chosen one on the east side of the Great Pyramid. And we'll go inside. And in this case, because the ancient colors were preserved well, we can actually restore what this subterranean chapel looked like originally, thousands of years ago. And the button down below that says photogrammetry allows us to change to our Matterport camera model that was done inside the tomb. So you can toggle back and forth and see the colors as they're restored in the model, or how the tomb looks today if you were to visit it. Other ways to enhance the outreach is maybe to have the tomb owners themselves show you their tombs. So here's another experiment. This isn't quite on our website these days, but a lot of the features I'll show you are experimental. Some are public, some are not quite yet. Some are works in progress. So here is the queen, the tomb owner of that chapel, taking you inside. And the experiment here is, what if you could take every object on the wall and pop it out in 3D as an actual object, such as the Queen's bedroom canopy and her bed set. This is based on parallels from a nearby tomb of very contemporary time period. Or for example, her carrying chair represented right next door on the wall to the left there. That can pop out in 3D as well. So a fantasy I have is to try to create a tomb where everything on the walls exists in 3D as well for study. And clicking from there would take you to the actual metadata for the object and the museum collection it's in, for example. Same thing with merging models and original expedition photography, such as this one to show you what that niche, that offering false door, looked like in 1927 when it was originally excavated. Another feature, and this gets more to the texts, and this point we've been playing with, and down below you can see my colleagues at the Epigraphic Survey have done great work with this architrave from Giza. The 3D model from Sketchfab is on the right, and then here you can slide between historical photography or more recent photography, or the line drawing, the epigraphy here. Eventually, I'd like to pull these out in paleographies and other types of parsing that we can really get at the text in a more systematic way. Here's some of the historical imagery that's there. So you can see the original excavation shots from 1925 or so of this architrave. And then over on the right, clicking on different walls will rotate the Sketchfab model and orient you. And of course, you can zoom around in the Sketchfab model and make it full screen as well for a better look in addition. And then of course the transliteration, always a challenge on with web fonts and things. We tried using Google's Noto serif. And so here you see the transliteration of the text on that architrave and the English translation as well. So that seems to be working pretty well so far. Good step ahead. And then another feature is, since it's hard to know where you are in a translation, certainly if you don't read hieroglyphs, and sometimes even if you do, clicking on the various lines of transliteration and translation will highlight the particular line that you're in. So I find this is an interesting outreach tool to give people a sense of, where am I in this text? Where does it say that? Where is that translation? And another feature similar to that is something that we've experimented with as an app for phones and tablets. And in this case, we're looking where the red arrow shows you. That is a stela set up between the paws of the Great Sphinx at Giza. And the stela dates to 1,000 years later than the Sphinx in the Old Kingdom and the pyramids. And it's a propagandistic tale by this king Thutmose IV. Basically, he has a dream and the Sphinx appears to him and says that I'm covered in sand, and if you'll dig me out, I will make you pharaoh. And that's what happens. And so the young prince is made king, and he erects this stela with the text right there. So in the Harvard Museum of the Ancient Near East, we have a resin replica of this text, and you can aim your phone at it, and it behaves like a QR code. And you can see on the right, that's what your phone is showing you. Just hitting the next button parses the text out line by line and gives you the English translation as you go. So again, it's a way to read hieroglyphs without reading hieroglyphs. And there are other features in this app as well. It can take you down between the front legs of the Sphinx, and you can see it in the Old Kingdom before that stela was added, or the New Kingdom when the stela is there, or you can slide the slider to now and see a present day appearance as well. And you can rotate around in 360. So different ways to try to make text accessible without the years and years of studying Middle Egyptian. And these AR apps work at home as well. So the app is called Dreaming the Sphinx. It's on the Google Play Store and Apple Store, and is free. And we're in between versions 1 and 2. So hopefully most of it will work. But you can download a hieroglyph and aim your phone at that, and you'll get the augmented reality right on your own coffee table as well. This is another approach at outreach. This is the dig house behind the pyramids. And on something called the Smart Stage, you'll see that this is an Unreal model, and I'm standing in this kind of fake stage, but the 360-degree effect is on the screen, much wider than where I'm actually standing. So I'm able to join all of these objects in the courtyard of the dig house and talk about them. And the camera moves around to the side, and you can see how the illusion is creating this. It's 3 monitors, 1 on the floor, and then 90 degrees, 2 walls, but the model then projects the rest of it around it. So I look at this as kind of a Zoom 2.0. If we really get tired of talking heads, this could be the way to lecture a little bit more immersively and with a little bit more interest. And in this model, you can actually put objects in front of the human like this. So in this case, I've got an iPad, and I can pop up an inscription and talk about it. And with the iPad, I can rotate it around or magnify it. This is kind of fun because all of these masterpieces, of course, were never discovered in the same year, in the same season, and they were never all there in the courtyard of the camp at the same time. But here I could magnify this text. I can rotate it around to show different inscriptions and talk about them. So as an outreach tool, I think this has some use. And God forbid if we all go back into Zoom teaching only, then this is one way I think to liven things up a little bit. In terms of crowdsourcing, I've tried experiments in my Giza classes at Harvard, and we have a visualization lab classroom. And over different semesters, I've tried assigning a tomb to each student to try to build with 3D modeling with basic software. We've tried different ones. And I'd say with mixed results, because obviously these students aren't coming in as architects. They're here to learn about the pyramids and archaeology and art history, not so much about 3D modeling. But some of them are good at it and they pick it up. And of course, there are hundreds and hundreds of tombs at Giza, and we don't have the personnel and the time to build every single one to the level of detail that we want. So I won't give up on this. I'll see if we can get usable, basic mastaba tombs out of this kind of crowdsourcing work. And who knows, maybe it could be taken worldwide on the web with some kind of contest or other. And there's a lot of talent out there, and maybe we could get more of the necropolis constructed with that kind of help. So there are, obviously the web can reach the widest audience. On the other end of the spectrum, we have this visualization lab classroom at Harvard, where only the privileged few can fit into that small room at any one time. In between, of course, are the stereo headsets like the Oculus Quest 2 that allows for a more immersive experience. And here we're all wearing them, and we're avatars inside the particular chapel. So at each juncture, we're trying to consider who are we trying to reach? What's the easiest way to do it? Do we have to require downloads, or can it be browser-based? Do they have to be in a particular physical space to experience this? All different modes of outreach. 3D printing and scanning goes along with this as well. And of course, that has its own requirements for equipment and access and classroom use, for example. Here you're seeing it's actually a replica of this famous triad from Giza, but with these high-speed 3D scanners. They come across pretty quickly. And from there, printing out the models is the next step. So this particular head is interesting. And as we're printing it, I took it then to Cairo. The original head is in Boston and the body is in Cairo. And so you can see in the photos down below what a nice fit it was. And the hieroglyphic inscription along the back pillar really lines up quite nicely. I did this purposely in this garish blue because I didn't want to be stopped at the airport as if I were coming in or leaving with any priceless Egyptian antiquity. So no mistakes there about what was ancient and what was modern. And then just to finish up on something that's not from Giza or not Egyptian, this is Assyrian, but to get the point across of something else we're working on, you're spinning around below on the 3rd floor of the Harvard Museum of the Ancient Near East. And on the walls are modern resin casts made of plaster casts from 100 years ago that in turn came from the British Museum, Assyrian palace reliefs and things. So this is another way to liven up the experience here. And in this case, we eventually hope to let you aim your phone at any of these reliefs and the colors can come back. And then even more to try to tell a story, in each case, a different story. So here, this is of course a royal hunting scene, and to try to bring it to life. And I hope it comes to life for you. And you can see the animation here as the chariot moves and the poor lion gets shot, and to bring everyone into their place. There are other scenes, of course, of prisoners and battles and anointings and audiences in the palace and things. Each one is a unique story. So ways to restore the ancient colors, to animate them, to try to bring the text alive, and to parse them out in manageable bite-sized pieces so that visitors who aren't schooled in the fineries of the language can participate as well. These are all different ways that we're trying to reach larger audiences while at the same time providing the basic metadata, the links, the photography, the precise museum information that scholars would need to study aspects of the Giza necropolis. And I hope I didn't overstep my time. And that's what I've got. Thanks.